This is Senate Appropriations, and we're taking up H31. We took testimony yesterday, and we were concerned about, we seem to be overweighted on the political side, underweighted on the scientific side, and thought it would make sense to add and connect with the capacity that exists in the University of Vermont. I did speak with Wendy Koenig, who works in the president's office, and she indicated that in fact they are a subrecipient of a grant of about $10 million on the whole area of water quality and in terms of the environmental issues. So our conversation about trying to connect to the expertise that we have at our university turned out to be interesting in light of the fact that they've got significant funding. However, we've just brought to our attention, Senator Bray, that the administration doesn't support this study at all and feels that this work could be done without them. This is not asking for much in the way of money. I guess it would be the per diems for the two legislators. And we do have an amendment that was modified a bit from the draft you and Mike put together yesterday afternoon. I don't know if you've seen the final version or not.
That's what
And it's two scientists or researchers from the University of Vermont appointed by the president. And that's rather than Ruben's thing, because Wendy was saying, it might be possible some that would be in, I don't know, another area of allied health or whatever might be better. So rather than being that prescriptive, just allow the president to identify the faculty or the individuals who could best participate in this work. So what we've added is two scientists or researchers from the University of Vermont appointed by the president of UVM, with one with expertise in potential human health impacts. I got into the, we were thinking of the medical college, but Wendy had suggested there might be someone in another health-related field that's not medical college, and so didn't want to preclude that. And then the other with expertise in aquatic biology, etc. And so that's how we ended up after yesterday's discussion. And that's the amendment that Mike has drafted for our consideration.
Great. Well, I think it's appreciate the discussion, and the whole point of the thing was not to put a finger on the scale for either side, but to get better information. And so I think it's been a healthy conversation. And I also like the whole thing of UVM doing those appointments. It seems awkward to me to have speakers doing committees doing it. Like, how would they know who to put in? Because it streamlines it.
So, and there's, and I guess we're not gonna, you've obviously taken testimony. Your conclusion was this is something that needs to be examined. And even though the administration seems to feel that this stuff is not.
Sure. Yeah, I think, I want to be fair to them. I think it's right to say that they've commenced the rulemaking, and I think they would, they're interested in just continuing the rulemaking. And I think our sense in committee was that there'd be some value in having legislators participate in this working group, so that this issue, which I think is going to be back in the legislature year after year, because there's parties with different interests that are going to continue to compete, that this would be a way to help us be better educated for the next session.
So with that said, do I have a motion to move the amendment?
Move the amendment.
I'll second.
I haven't had a chance to read my letter that tells me to vote against the bill. Okay. I know I got an email, vote against it, so.
Yeah, several.
I have several. Well, I haven't had a chance to get to my email.
31, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sears.
Tentatively, yes.
Star,
Yeah.
yes. Kitchell.
Yes.
um, I'll move the bill to appropriations.
Second. Thank you, Maureen.
Second.
No, we'll hold it for Senator Lyons, because it's obviously something that she's,
She probably wants to do the recording.
Is she the reporter?
well, she would be the reporter,
Put her name as the reporter, but
and then we'll take a vote and finalize it later. Now, you're here for H 126 as well,
Yes, ma'am. I mean,
but we will call the roll first before we,
sorry.
no, it's okay, it's fine,
This is on 31.
yes. Mhm. Who doesn't like this, other than,
I've got to read my emails.
there are,
Yes.
I think it's fair to say, there are partisans on both sides who,
No talking during the vote.
Sears,
Tentatively, yes.
Star,
Western, yes.
yes,
Hold it for Senator Lyons. Can you break?
now, I've told people numerous times, if you want to rely on email, I have been booked from the minute I walked in this morning. So our ability to read email at all
It's the same thing for me.
is
That's
just,
why
we're overloaded.
I just happened to see the headlines to vote against this bill, but
Oh,
I didn't obviously have the opportunity to read it.
That was the email from Senator Star.
Oh, it was.
then you can take that under advisement.
I would, if it's from Senator Star, I'll certainly take it under advisement.
Okay, so don't pause it. So let's move on to 126, which is biodiversity. And I understand that they spent a lot of discussion and there's some, oh, is this? Oh, this is, this is what you're talking about, the Federation of Vermont Lakes and Ponds.
who said first, a lot of.
And so no one explained DEC has already formed a stakeholder group in rulemaking, but now we understand it, but, and we support.
Give a visit.
So I think that must be the email you're referring to.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's absolutely not gonna go away, this issue. It's been going on for a long time.
Whether it's Senator Westman's Brook, or it's like Carmine, or like Alvin, or
Lake Maury,
like Maury, yeah, it's. Happily, I think, the number of lakes with a major, like, no four month separation is pretty limited compared to most. Now it comes to mind something like 50 of like the 780. So it's surprisingly low to me, but the problem is that once the foil gets started, even a little piece, as I understand it.
The problem is most of the ones that have it are the ones with a lot of camps on them.
well, I would like to move on to 126, if we could.
So,
And Stephanie, you have an amendment on that? I mean, because this is the one where we've heard from Secretary Moore that in addition to the funding to BHCD, which we've accounted for, that she is maintaining for her agency to do this work, would require more person power. And had said that.
You can't read it to me, I don't know. If you just-
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, it's right here.
17.
do you all have hard copies of 126 as you're looking at it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I have about a dozen.
I have it up.
A dozen copies.
So I asked her to put it in writing to me, or Senator Gray, when he mentioned the latest request from ANR. I asked if he would request that she put her position justification in writing.
Next one.
And that is what we have here in this document. And she basically is saying that, which is good, it looks like this could be a one-time because they do have federal, it seems like the opportunity for federal grants that would help for years 2 and 3. But
They've also partnered with BHCB, so they have I think a robust application because they have partners.
So at this point, the request is for one-time money of $150,000 for a limited service position, which we would have to create and fund if we are to move this bill forward. So if you would tell us what the bill does and where we are, because I know that there's been a lot of work to come to some kind of agreement in terms of what is considered conserved, so to speak.
So you touched on a number that I think just as a 45-second reminder of why the bill exists at all. We're in a time, it sounds dramatic, but I think it unfortunately happens to be true of rapid climate change, and it's affecting the natural environment and all the things that live out there. So one of our best responses is to try to maintain healthy natural communities. And one of the ways we do that is through conservation, variety of means and so on. This bill aims to develop a plan that works in concert with ongoing efforts and in order to conserve land. It also, maybe the springboard into it was a national initiative to conserve 30% of natural spaces by 2030 and 50 by 2050. There was the directive out of quite a bit of conflict between different stakeholder groups, but we sat down with people and said, you all have an interest in this, you're gonna have to sort out your differences. And that working group came forward with a consensus document. We worked through as a committee and we felt like it was a strong and balanced proposal. The key thing that changed was, and this is what brought A&R on board with, there was a definition of conservation that only allowed for permanent conservation, but former Commissioner Snyder often used to talk about the conservation ladder. You might first be in current use, you might be in current use 30 years before you decide, you know what, when I leave my farm or whatever, I want to actually have a conservation easement so I know how it's going to be preserved. So the concept was that if we only counted permanently preserved lands like through easements, they are relatively expensive means of conserving land, and it would limit A&R's ability to get people into that whole conservation ladder. Once the compromise here is that twofold. One is that 2030 on, both impermanent and permanent conservation count towards the goal. So, current use lands, for instance, as well as BLTEs who conserve lands. The second thing was that
I think that's really important because the earlier version did not consider the current use enrolled, and there's a lot of current use enrolled that where they have not sold the conservation rights, and yet it's in forestry, it's in ag production. So I can see that would have a great impact in terms of the how you counted what land.
Current use should be counted basically as permanent and then extracted if they take it out. But I mean, there's a lot of
I guess that's what they did.
Right,
And
so-
in essence,
Yeah.
the compromise, I think, did that. But
Yes.
last year, I think that was a different discussion, so.
So we thought that argument had merit, and we modified the bills. It came from the House and came to consensus. So I think in the end,
You haven't
maybe
sold
people have
conservation
gotten
rights on your
restless.
land. No,
Maybe people have gotten
we
restless.
haven't
since
sold
we voted.
conservation rights on our land either. So we've got, sitting right here, we've probably got close to 1,000 acres.
We better have more than that.
Well, more than that, just between our farms. So,
Right.
so that does have, you start, if two people add up to that much acreage, it can, so.
The other component that was another area of compromise that farmland was not eligible in the count towards conserved land. And we looked at that issue and decided that farmland would be counted. And there's more details to it, but basically farmland, which was not counted before, now gets counted in the total.
But only the 2050.
For
It doesn't have to be permanent. For it to count towards the goal, the 30% goal seems like it doesn't need to be permanent, but when you're counting for the 50% goal, permanent, change from permanent to primarily permanent, and then you have the conservation design and enforceable.
Right, right. So that was the compromise to leave for a couple of years, the permanent provision. And then for the bulk of the work for the next 20 years, to acknowledge that quote unquote, impermanent conservation has value. I mean, the best example to me is Vermont has a legacy investment in current use. I don't know how many hundreds, maybe we're over the $1 billion mark over time for how much money we've put in to building that program.
Oh, I'm sure.
So we thought it was appropriate
To recognize that
to
investment.
recognize that legacy investment and make those lands eligible for inclusion. And those were I think the two things, the major things that got sorted out, farmland and impermanent, or to allow them to use.
Other questions?
So the only appropriation is the,
Yes, it's the one time.
But in Julie's letter, she says at the end that the money would come too late.
That's why they need it in the budget this year, because the grant application, if successful, would fund years 2 and 3. That's the last paragraph. They've got a joint application with Gus. And if they're successful, then those federal funds could support the second and third year position. So they just need some bridge money, hopefully getting a positive response to their joint application.
There is a federal program, right, the America, the Beautiful
Yeah.
Act, that is providing funding broadly across the board.
And that's where they submitted their application.
And Vermont is honestly, I think, in a very good position to, as an applicant, because we have conservation. I think it's not something new.
We also have a current use program that's pretty robust, so.
Yeah, 60 odd million a year.
So, Senator Bridgewood,
To like 85.
you have a question?
just a quick question on the Vermont conservation design, which is capitalized, but it's not defined in here, so I assume it's something already.
Yes, so Vermont Conservation Design is a comprehensive document that looks at flora, fauna, land and land type.
Something created by ANR.
And it's an atlas, and it's also a living document that is part of how we figure out. First, it was sort of inventory, what's going on there, what lives and grows where, and then how does that function, like where their habitat corridors, for instance. And then it's also helpful in sort of seeing where there are the most stressed areas or the most valuable areas. So it can, instead of just thinking about Vermont broadly, how are we conserving it, it can be strategic in where they go.
And this now is supported by the administration. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's why you have to Secretary Moore's letter.
If we give them
Well, they need the money to do the work.
so do we need to amend it or you're amending?
No, we have to amend it. We have to amend the bill. We have possession of the bill, so we would need to, but wait a minute, no, we don't. What, the bill that you passed out has the amendment in it. I mean, has the funding in it, the appropriation for both.
Sorry, the appropriation is in there.
Okay, so we don't need to amend to add Julie's proposal. It got
But we knew
added.
the money was out of the bank for what we
Right.
put in the bill.
So at first I thought we were gonna have to amend it, but then I see that you didn't pass it out before you added that second appropriation.
We just have to find the money.
245.
Well, the 75, I think, I was covered. It's the 150
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah, that would be additional in your budget construct and the conference committee on the budget. That would have to assume, assuming that the House concurs with the new version of the 150.
So we don't have to accommodate the 75.
You don't have to accommodate the 75, only this 150. We'll add it to the ticker.
So was any of this money in the House version of the budget?
75 was.
75.
And we accommodated that in when you passed out your budget, that we accommodated that. It's 150 new that will have to be squeezed into your budget
Into
conference.
the one.
So do we need to leave this in to pass it?
If you pass it out, I'm gonna make you accommodate it.
Yeah, I get that, but to have a position,
Oh, we're gonna,
Does Julie need a position created, or does she have one vacant one that she can fill? I think is the question.
well, we don't create the position here. It says to hire a limited service position. So we need to create it.
We would need to create it unless she said
Okay.
she could find an existing vacant one to use.
Well, we better check on that, because if she doesn't, we have to
we
create
have
it.
to create it.
And then we have to figure out the 150, but it's probably got a little bit.
Now we can just pass it out favorably and
And then the note will be accommodating the 150 and probably adding a position to the list in the budget.
I move we pass it out favorably.
But we need to create it. We need to find out if we need to create a position.
We do that.
You can do that in the budget bill.
I think we'll do it next month.
We can do it, yeah.
We can do it during the meeting.
Maybe the House want to agree to the amendment.
Well, they might not, but they passed the original bill, so I liked it until I didn't.
I liked it until I had to create a position to do the job.
Right, we liked it, but
Till
we didn't
forgot
fund it.
Didn't fund it.
So we have a motion to move the bill favorably, recognizing that we've got to accommodate if we need to create the position and the one-time money, we'll have to put that in our budget deliberations. Do I have a second?
I seconded
Oh, I'm
it, I
sorry.
wrote it down,
Oh, all
nobody
right.
else spoke, so
Oh,
I
okay.
put my name.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
that was nice of you, Senator West.
Well,
How about if I vote out of order?
how about, you give me a little break here, and I'm gonna say yes when it's time.
When it's my turn?
Bruce,
Yes.
Sears,
What about Lyons?
we'll get there.
She's not here.
You said you wanted to be out of turn.
Unless it's ultimate transparency.
Personally,
Yes,
now, Sears.
Yes. I would ask that the next roll call be in reverse. order.
Yes.
That's without objection.
Without objection.
I'm objective. I used to do that to Tim all the time. He would ask for reverse roll calls and I would object.
Weston, yes.
He just wanted to make me the first one.
All right.
Who's the reporter, Lane?
Science, so we'll hold that one.
She doesn't vote for it, somebody else.
You remember the song from Chicago, Mr. Cellophane?
Yeah.
All I can think of is when you talk about transparency, it's Mr. Cellophane.
Thank you, appropriations.
That was Roxy's ever
Senator Brown.
suffering husband. All right, we're now on to the compact. Look at them all. And where is Senator Lyons?
And where to be found. My memory is that if it says compact, basically we can never do anything with the bill.
No.
We could just suck it out or we're not.
Compact. Is that like a compact car?
we put all the compacts
Car to
together.
go, a compact car to go with it?
Yeah, you can't change the
We-
word.
But we can compact the compacts into one bill. We just have to vote once.
They convicted them.
So when I'm handing out the memo that you sent for the three, and it has the fiscal.
What happened?
notes for everything.
Yeah,
There you go.
I mean, does anybody not get what's going on? Like, guys just calling for revolution.
Yes, absolutely. I know, and we, if you look on the board, we have H77, H86, H62, and H282, and they're all compacts, and they all probably, because of the reciprocity, then mainly have some loss of revenue to OPR because of that reciprocity, just inherent in reciprocity. So, do we have an appropriation as well?
No.
No.
No appropriations in these bills.
So it's gone through, the House has passed, it's come out of our Senate Health and Welfare Committee favorably?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the impacts are on the revenue side.
Correct.
And they're modest,
There's
right?
only one, for the record, all 9 joint fiscal office. The 62, 77, and 86 are all very similar. 282 is different because not only do we, with the other ones, we lose revenues, but we can apply with no privilege fee through the compact so that we can get some money back, and they all have a $50 privilege fee. Except for 282, which is the psychological, so psychiatrist, psychological one.
Interjurisdictional.
Yeah, there are
Yeah,
different names.
that-
And so what that is, basically, is not only does that one not allow a privilege fee, but they charge the state a fee for each, I think it's $10 or something like that for each resident who is in the compact that claims Vermont as a residency, but there's a cap. And yes, and they charge the boards, I don't know how they charge OPR or whoever, but it would not be more than like a couple $1,000. So
Oh.
there would be an appropriation impact, but not in this fiscal year, and it would be very, very, very minimal.
Well, these are all revenue impacts for OPR.
Yeah,
Correct.
And their fees have to accommodate the cost of regulating the profession. So the impact on the general fund doesn't exist. It's just
Yes.
the impact it has on the Secretary of State, which seem to be quite modest here.
Correct.
well, are these compacts working like, the nurses? you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
training.
exactly, same thing. So if you're licensed in another state, you have, the compacts have reciprocity.
But that's what I think's happened to our nurses. They all left to go nurse in New York, and sometimes they go from Newport to St.
You're
Jay.
talking about the traveling nurses.
Yeah, but they have their credentials all put through an issue like this, and they sign up, and then they're a visiting nurse, and
There's also some, the flip side is that it allows for some telemedicine, which allows us to get people to get access.
So
to
I
some-
like-
I'll let the senator talk to
They're all.
the policy pieces. The purpose of my memo here was, because each of these compact bills are super long. I was just trying to summarize it all in one thing, give you the fiscal piece in one piece, and then
let's
So I guess.
close out.
Exactly.
telemedicine.
Well, it works both ways. It-
Well, I think that works from our experience up north. It's working in a negative way.
Well,
DNAs, the whole crew.
Senator Starr is talking about the extent to which these compact agreements facilitate the traveling nurses and which encourage people to leave their jobs in Vermont and go work for a company and come back and work in another Vermont site at 4 times the salary. So
The
so that's-
compact won't do that. The compact allows for a nurse or a psychologist or a physical therapist to have a temporary license or an audiologist and to work outside of state for a short period of time. It's not something They can go work in a compact state for a period of time should they wish to do so, but it really does help for the workforce coming into the state. And some of the folks that we've heard from are very concerned about not having sufficient workforce resources, and this allows for some adaptation. Then you've got folks who want to work in neighboring states like New York or New Hampshire. And this grants them some facility for that. That's really what it is.
And the estimated revenue loss are from out-of-staters who currently buy Vermont licenses, who would now buy for the compact instead, not Vermonters who would buy the compact.
And the temporary aspect of that, so if somebody moves here and wants to start their audiology, and they're from a compact state, so at the beginning, they don't have to like go through the whole licensing program, they can just start providing services, but at some point, do they have to get licensed here, or can they just continue to have their license in South Carolina?
They probably would come and get a full license.
They don't have to.
Practice here permanently.
How many states are in these compacts? Vermont would be,
It depends.
are these fairly robust
Some
participation?
of them are. I'm trying to remember which is which, and Aaron might be able to help me. I know one of the compacts has 34 states, and some of the compacts have.
You actually have that information.
For each of the individual fiscal notes, that fiscal notes, each of them says how many other states are in that particular one.
Uh-huh.
So for instance, I have 77 in front of me, which is the physical therapy, and there's 28 other states, including New Hampshire, and another 5 that have enacted legislation to join the compact. So that's just an example of one. Look at the other ones too and tell you if you want.
And are then, so it probably depends on which ones of the neighboring states are members in this.
Yeah,
If
so
you're not a member, then you.
86, which is the audiology one, there's 23 states, including New Hampshire, that have joined the compact. Must be significant amount of other states are a good number.
Other questions? This came out of your Health and Welfare Committee.
Yeah.
On a unanimous vote?
Yes, each one.
Did you check with any of the states that are already in the compact to see what the pluses and the minuses are?
No, but we did hear from the OPR person, Lauren. No, the other one who's now the compact person.
Oh.
The new compact person, she's new, so I remember. And they're very supportive. It works well. I mean, for the states that participate, it works very well. And for the professionals who are involved, it gives them an opportunity to either to go out and help out where they're needed or to stay in state. We haven't heard negative.
Other questions? Well, we can, I mean, we're talking as a group. I mean, we have 4 separate bills, but they're all compact and they're just for different, yeah. And so, we could, I've never done it. Can we approve?
I got 4 different sheets.
All
here,
right, so our clerk is ready to clerk.
I'm filling out the last one now.
What, you're afraid of the clerk?
Well, I have to
I'll
leave.
move 77.
Oh, it's sorry, yes, and
I'm sorry for interrupting. For the record, Amber Navigili with City Council. I have been asked by the Joint Fiscal Office to prepare an amendment for H86 relating to interpreter services for the deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf blind populations. So I didn't know if the committee was interested in hearing that.
we do, because we stripped that language out of the budget. And the agreement was we were going
Put
to
it back in.
put it in a bill traveling from Health and Welfare.
Here it is.
Oh. Thank you. You're welcome. Because thank you for doing that, because the budget that it came over from the House had, this was really technical cleanup and using the right terminology. And we didn't think the budget was really the vehicle by which we should be doing this statutory update. And so This is something that we considered in the budget, in the 24 budget, and we decided that we would remove it from the budget and have it travel in a bill that had something to do with health care or something.
That's unique.
And so, thank you. So this is asking us to add to this, it doesn't matter which bill, right?
This would be adding it to H86, which is the audiology and speech language pathology.
Okay, so let's move H77 first, which is physical therapy.
77, I move the bill to it.
Second,
Opposed,
Yes.
Lyons,
Yes.
Birchler,
Yes.
Sears,
Yes. See, yours seems to be difficult today. I'm gonna be leaving here and that'll relieve your anxiety.
There's no anxiety. Weston, yes, Kitchell.
yes,
Reporter,
should be, who does OPR?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Senator Persick, I think is a
Well, that
reporter.
doesn't mean I gotta go all for it.
Yes, and Senator Lyons says no, but you have two, we're gonna get you both, they
Yeah.
have A&R, so you've picked up
You
two.
might wanna vote against them.
Oh, I got two.
Yeah, we'll let you know, we'll take your vote.
Oh, good.
All right, so,
131 and
um,
126.
Just say there's no impact on the fisc.
yeah.
You're all done.
H31, the aquatic nuisance, we did add the scientists from UVA and found out they had a $10 million grant on water quality, et cetera. So Wendy said this is a wonderful nexus.
This really fits.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I'm sorry, but
Good
it
thing.
was 601, right? Vote, so she knows.
I'm gonna vote yes.
All right, I'll break it down for that.
You were.
I was a tentative yes,
I vote yes on this.
just as
Yeah,
a
I'll
warning.
break it down now.
yeah,
What?
she's got.
Well,
she's
where's
got
the one
sheet,
from
she's writing
then?
it down right now.
601 and
Senator
So-
Lyons.
Senator
absent.
Lyons is a yes on that.
No, we kept it open.
Oh, I
We
see.
kept it open.
Trickery.
No, no, it's called vote management. All right,
Okay, so
So
I see it. This is, what was that for? 31?
31, you're the reporter for
I vote
31,
yes.
and you're also the reporter for H 2026. Okay, which is
An
a part,
accusation of trickery.
because we didn't.
I vote yes.
Yes,
Yeah, she
Okay,
just
I'm
recorded.
yeah, okay.
Careful.
So now we're down to the 86, and we have an amendment here.
I'll move the bill, I'll move to amend the bill.
Okay, Senator Westman moves. We have a second. Cameron, we know what we need to do here, because it's revisiting earlier decisions. So, we will then call the roll.
For
Yes.
Lyons,
Yes.
Birchler,
Yeah,
Sears,
Yes.
yes.
Star, Weston, yes, Kitchell,
Yes. Okay,
and now you.
now we need a motion to move the bill favorably as amended.
can I just ask a quick question?
Yes, you may.
F line, is that? Like, I've written like that, I've not seen that before, so I was just curious, if, like,
You saw it in the budget.
other than when I saw it before.
I don't know the background of the term, but I have confirmed that that is the correct term to use in this situation.
It was somebody that's supposed to, I assume, and but it just.
It is interesting that you got the double count.
Yeah.
I know. Other questions?
Emphasize.
All right, so we have a motion to move the bill favorably.
Move
As
the bill
amended.
as amended.
Yeah, favorably as amended. And we do have a motion already.
No, but I'll make it. It's going in.
All right, second,
I'm sorry, what bill is this, Senator?
this is,
Okay.
this is 86.
86.
Yes, as amended, so we're doing deaf, hard of hearing, deaf, blind.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Do you want to second it then?
Yeah, I do, because I may be hard of hearing, because I didn't hear the bill number.
All right,
Could the clerk restate the motion?
as amended, 86, get it?
Yes.
Was that a yes for the bill or yes, you will now?
Yes, all the way
understand?
around.
All the way around.
All right, Lyons.
Yes.
Birchler.
Yes.
Sears.
Yeah.
Star.
Yes,
Westman, yes. Mitchell.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Emma, for reminding us. Now we're on to 862, our counseling compact.
More compact.
I think someone would want to move the bill favorably. Senator Bruce.
I'll second.
And seconded Senator Starr. Don't you put us out for misery. Okay, and I don't see any further
Yes.
questions, so Bruce, yes. Okay.
Lyons.
Yes.
Birchler.
Yes.
Sears.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes,
You're
Westman,
multitasking.
yes.
I thought you were gonna say yes.
Yes.
Who's the reporter?
No.
Birchler.
Personally,
Personally, it's got all of these.
Keeps me awake on doing this one.
Yeah, okay.
The compact man.
So-
Now we're on to H282, which is an act relating to psychology interjurisdictional compact. Put you right on the edge of your seat. Do we have a motion to move it favorably? All right, Senator Bruce, seconded by Senator Starr. Our clerks should get a bonus.
this is
You're getting
serious,
heat on.
serious clicking today.
Yeah, I know.
Probably gonna put in a workers'
Bruce.
comp claim.
Yes.
Lyons.
Yes.
Birchler.
Yes.
Sears.
Yes.
Star.
yes,
Westman, yes. Mitchell.
Yes.
And Birchler.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's our chief of compacts.
I want a badge.
I want a compact car. I want a compact car. Can you give me that too?
How about this? So, committee, if you look, we are just a couple of minutes before 2 o'clock. Senator Sears, you have a long trip ahead of you, and we have actually finished the work of the committee for today.
Great
And a
job.
half hour ahead.